Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Thank you for joining the Empower Africa Driving Business in Africa event today. It's really a pleasure meeting all of you. I hope that everyone's enjoying the different networking that's going on. Welcome to the next panel. This panel is called Technology Shaping the Future of Agriculture. I'm your moderator, Yael Birnbaum. I'm on the business development team here at Empower Africa. And without further ado, I would like to introduce each one of our panelists. As we do so, each person is going to put their videos on. I will mention we have 30 minutes for this panel, and then at the end, we'll take Q&A. So please, to the audience members, feel free to use the side chat on the right to just throw in questions there into the Q&A. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Amit Noam. Hi, Amit. He's the COO of AgriTask. AgriTask is a world-leading agriculture platform provider that digitizes agricultural ecosystems, enabling better agronomic practices and access to more accurate insurance and credit-based products for farmers. AgriTask works in over 35 countries across 5 different continents, serving clients like the IFC, Starbucks, Continental Re, and Swiss Re. Some of these people are actually in the audience today. Amit has an entrepreneurial DNA and has previous experience with strategic consulting and business development. Welcome, Amit. Hi.
Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Great. So our next panelist, I would like to introduce Benny Shimon. He's the founder and CEO of AgriMapic. AgriMapic enables precision agriculture through drone technology. Benny has more than 20 years of experience in the image processing, CAD, and GIS software industry, both as technology and business development manager positions. He has over 35 years of experience in the UAV industry across all aspects, from flying to building and designing fixed wings, RC helicopters, and multi-rotor systems made from large variety of materials such as plastic and composites. Thanks, Benny, for joining. Hi, Benny.
Hi, thanks for being here. Bye.
Our next panelist is, of course, Maoz Aviv, the Director of Agriculture at Empower Africa. Maoz brings 20 years of experience serving as Chief Agronomist and Marketing positions at leading food and beverage and irrigation companies. Maoz has executed dozens of projects all over the world. His broad perspective has brought him to advising governments, multinational agricultural companies and institutions, startups, and of course, farmers themselves. And Maoz, it's a pleasure to also work with you. Welcome, Maoz.
Thank you very much. It's an honor.
Our next and last panelist is Rami Alon. He is the Director of Aquaculture at Palgei Mayim. Palgei Mayim is a leading global provider of sustainable water and wastewater infrastructure solutions in Israel and also in developing countries worldwide. Rami leads their aquaculture department. Rami is a marine biologist and aquaculture specialist. He's built 5 modern fish farms in the rivers and Bayelsa states in Nigeria. He specializes in freshwater and marine water fish and shrimp and cage culture for marine and inland waters. Rami has a unique knowledge of developing integrated aquaculture solutions for arid terrains as well. Thank you, Rami, and thanks to all of our panelists for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. So I would like to open, as many of you know, Empower Africa is focused on agriculture, and there's a reason for that. We've seen that agriculture is one of the best ways to jumpstart economies, specifically in Africa. So this is why we're all here today, and this is what brings us here. I was thinking this morning of ways to open the session, and I thought, one thing is that we're all consumers. From the morning, we're drinking our Nest coffees, our taster's choice, and then we have that pick-me-up chocolate bar, and we're pretty much consuming the world's top brands without even fully understanding what exactly are the processes behind these products and the processes behind the value chains, and really what brings this product from farm to table. So with that said, I wanted to turn to our panelists and open with some questions. And the very first question is related to this idea. I would like for each one of you just to discuss briefly what is the new technology that you're bringing here today to discuss, and please share how this technology can specifically impact and optimize a specific agricultural value chain, and more so, how can it impact Africa? So I would like to start in order. Amit, you have the floor.
So much, Yael, and I just want to say that you're touching a great point, because our focus is how we help empower the small farmers in Africa. And one of the ways to empower them is to connect them into the rest of the supply chain. Because one of the problems today is that there's not enough data of these farmers, of where they are, what they grow, and for them, what are the different opportunities there are in order to get insurance, get credit, connect them to the relevant off-takers and input providers. And what we do is we provide a digital infrastructure that enables to connect the entire ecosystem together by being able to map all the farmers and having on a signal system the information of all the farmers together. You can suddenly be able to better assess the risk of these farmers in order to be able to bring the insurance companies to provide them insurance products, or the banks to provide them credits, or even connect them much better to support from governments in terms of giving them agronomic advice. Because once you have the data of all of them together, you can really give each one specific agronomic support, agronomic advice, alerts on hazards, alerts on different climate conditions. And by that, you're able to optimize an entire supply chain. And this is what we aim to do in Africa.
Amazing. So it's all about the data.
Yeah.
Benny, before I turn it over to you, I just want to mention to all of our panelists, this is very much supposed to be discussion oriented. So if anyone wants to jump in or respond specifically to something, feel free. So Benny, over to you.
Okay, hi, thanks, Yael. At Agrimapic, we are developing a smart sensor. Well, everybody knows about the remote sensing and precision agriculture and drones, which are very nice buzzwords. But if we're talking about the farmer in Africa, we had a visit last year over there. We saw some farmers just buying an ordinary off-the-shelf drone, and he was telling me, like, I'm taking picture of the plots, and I know what happened on the crop. Now, yeah, everybody saw YouTube, but it's not working like that. So in order to be efficient and to show exactly where the farmer, where to put the boots on the ground, to be focused on his problems that exist in his plots, we are developing a real-time smart sensor that's connected to the drone and give the ability to farmers located in worldwide, even without internet connection, a real answers where his problems are located in the plot. So basically giving a focus for the farmer or for the knowledge providers out there in Africa, what happened exactly in the plot and how to react. Combining technologies like AgriTask and other things, it can help a farmer to be more efficient and more precise in their process of raising crops.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a specific example of how this is applied?
Yes, our smart sensor contains not only a unique near-infrared camera, which is the technology for remote sensing. It is also connected to a real, I would say, tiny but small computer on board. On this computer, we have installed our algorithms that analyze in real time the pictures taken during the flight. By the end, the farmer will receive via, as I mentioned, not internet, via radio, he will receive a file with the points, the GPS locations where his suspected problems exist in the plot. Like he will get from 5 to 10 points that are problematic. Obviously, some of them are true positive and some of them are false positive. But his responsibility is to check and analyze them if they are true problems or false problems. And then he reacts accordingly.
Got it. Fantastic. You know, to someone like me, I'm always trying to understand the differences, you know, between the different technologies out there and also the cost, because it seems kind of very, you know, oh, this is very obvious to do, but yeah, it's very interesting to understand the differences also between these technologies, let's say between Amit's and Benny's, but we can get to that after. Moaz, I saw you raising
Yes.
your hand.
I want to share with everybody from my own experience. One of my first job as an agronomist and a farm manager was in Australia when I managed 2,300 hectare of a cashew farm in the Northern Territory, and that's a huge area. And when you are wake up in the morning and you need to control and you need to know what's actually happened in the farm, where there are pests, when you have irrigation issues or problems, or when you need to put more attention, it was dramatic, very, very difficult to analyze and to know it. We used to drive hours in the farm to look for problems and to try to solve. And I'm imagining if I add this kind of technology, and that time I can actually sit in the office and every morning get a certain report of what's exactly is happening in the farm, and to focus my staff and my crew actually to solve the problem and not monitoring them for so many hours. That's so efficient and so beneficial. It's unbelievable for somebody that manage such an operation. And we need to remember that a lot of farmers around the world and a lot of farming, it's a medium big operational. Even for the small one, you still have the ability to get all the information in a click of a button, compare of walking or driving for such a long time. So that's amazing.
Rami, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much. It is very difficult to pick up one subject in the world of aquaculture and talk in general about Africa and aquaculture, and we should be very careful in generalizing things. But I will try to pinpoint a few things that I learned over the years that I spent in Nigeria, and I learned a little bit about this continent and what we can bring in, and how we will be able to bring in something for the benefit of the local people, and to do something better for the local community, and generally to do business. And I think that what I've seen is one of the biggest challenges that I encountered, related mostly to logistics and infrastructure, and the ability to close the gap between advanced technology that we can offer and the addition of this technology to the local the local community and the local needs without looking very deeply into the way of living, the mentality, the philosophy, the way people think, the way people look at their future. And I think that to try to solve a problem without looking in all different aspects is very difficult. This is why I think that in Africa we should, as far as aquaculture is concerned, we should look at it a little bit different than agriculture, because agriculture is very smart. A single point failure, if you don't have a good watering system, then that's it. So you can take the drip irrigation and do magic with it, and in a single one action. And some other things too. In aquaculture, we have the technology to grow fish in the desert today. We can generate water from deep wells, and we can recirculate water in very sophisticated way. However, I'm not sure that this is the right approach. If we're looking at Africa and we're looking for relative advantages, then obviously aquaculture is very promising, because Africa has a lot of water that we can utilize and use if we think smartly. But that has to be looked at from each and every country, because Kenya is different from than Nigeria, that is different than Ghana, and so on. And this is why it goes into individual countries, individual interest within this country, relative advantage of each country, and looking at the right technology to start putting a good structure, which takes into consideration the limitation of infrastructure and logistics. Because fish farm, and then you're not going to be able to take the fish out because there's no good roads around it. So wrapping up these questions that I raised and give some way of solutions or looking at solutions, I'm a very big believer in the concept of central satellite farming. What it is basically taking a relatively big independent sustainable aquaculture farm, either shrimp, fish, whatever, which is built and designed and built near or at a place where a relative advantage exists, either a river or dam or lake or even sea or whatever, that we know we can raise fish there, and build a big farm. That can be big, but it doesn't have to be very, very big, because the idea behind it, that the interesting part. Once you build a farm which is even not making profit, let's say that it's a farm that is there for the benefit that I will explain, and it's not generating money, but it can uplift small farms around it. It can be a success. What does it mean? Let's say that somebody very rich, or the government, or both, investing in this farm and creating a central logistic place, hatchery, nursery, and producing fingerlings, and keeping fish feed, and having veterinarian services and other services that can be used a way to sell the fish, and around them you can develop small farmers, even individuals or few families together that raising a little amount of fish. Let's say that just for comparison, that the central farm is producing 1,000 tons, and each one of the small farms producing 10 tons. Okay, but let's say,
Rami, I don't mean to cut you off, but we're very limited here, and I really appreciate the diving in deep. I think it's super critical, but I do want to get on to some other questions.
okay.
Yes, sorry about that, but we're definitely we're discussing the concept of centralizing these kind of operations. By the way, aquaculture also in other operations this can be done, and we're actually Empower Africa has a food security proposal, which is exactly that, which is this kind of centralized system. Definitely with you on that, and sorry to cut you off, but we're limited, and whoever wants to continue can do so afterwards, after this panel. So it's really interesting to kind of hear, yes, there are specific challenges, and that's kind of as to my next question. I wanted to get your opinion, and this could be open-ended, whoever wants to jump in. If you had unlimited funds, let's say you were managing a fund for someone, and they just said, you know, Amit or Maoz, Benny, Rami, this is freehand, do whatever you want. I guess, Rami, you kind of outlined what you would suggest to do anyways, but I would love to hear your thoughts as to what would be your exact plan if you had unlimited funds.
Okay, I'd be happy to go. I think, you know, there's a lot of discussion in the last years about the need for more physical infrastructure needed in order to drive business and drive agriculture. I want to talk about a digital infrastructure that I believe can really change the entire environment and business environment, and get more and more multinationals to come into play. We have projects, for example, that we work with governments in order to as I said, we start by mapping the agriculture in a country, but later on you can go to multinational reinsurance companies and insurance companies or banks that want to get into Africa. But today, because of the lack of data, because of the lack of this digital infrastructure, it's very difficult for them to do business in a place where they're not able to do the analysis and to do the control needed in order to drive business there. And we see that once you're able to have that digital infrastructure, which costs money to do, but it doesn't cost crazy amounts of money. It's not like physical infrastructure. You suddenly can bring many new players into the ecosystem, drive much more competition in the ecosystem, give much more opportunities to the different growers. We know today that in Africa, less than 5% or much less than 10% of the farmers are actually insured. Also, a very small amounts get credits from banks because they're not able to give it. And suddenly, if you can grow that from 5% to 20% to 40% and get more and more farmers into these schemes, suddenly you do two things. One, you take this entire ecosystem forward. The second thing is you ensure their sustainability, because the situation today is when there's a weather hazard and you lose your entire field, many of these small farmers go into poverty and they're not able to recover from this. And if they have insurance, if they're able to go into the scheme, you ensure their sustainability throughout time. And by building this infrastructure, you're able to attract many more players, reduce the cost of these insurance products, and get them into the market.
Thank you, Amit. Interesting. Maoz, Benny?
Yeah, I will add to what Amit just mentioned, the issue of providing the farmers, especially the smallholder, a certain kind of a first support, whatever through a credit or tax or some discount related to insurance, of course, something that can push them forward in the first step. There is many places around the world that government subsidize a part of the cost of irrigation system or fertilize, help the farmer in their first step to start, not to establish the business because the business is already established, but to give them a push for moving from small, day by day surviving and fighting to actually profitable agriculture businesses. That will be amazing and huge for the country himself, from the farmer, and it will push all the continent forward. Farmers are very strong people. They choose this work because of a character, because of a DNA, because of history. They just need to add the chance to take it forward, and it will be amazing. Government, and again, as you mentioned, if somebody can give this credit or money to help all those small holders around the world, give them the first push, and all the cycle will be running forward.
I'm very curious, Benny, before you jump in, I'm curious, like a lot of people might not know, okay, we're talking about these technologies. How is this really relevant to the smallholder farmers? How does the channel work? Who are you selling to? Are you selling direct? You're not selling direct? What are the costs involved? These are all like questions that I'm constantly thinking when I think about ag tech. I think, oh, it's very high level, it's very involved. So how do you actually bring it down? I'd love to hear your response, Benny, maybe to the former question and to weave that in as well, and to open it up also to Rami and whoever else wants to answer that.
Okay, so first to add to what Amit and Maoz mentioned, it's good to have this all digital infrastructure and motivation from the, let's say, regulation or government in order to invest in these smallholders, farmers. But I think another layer of important layer in this process should be knowledge. Knowledge of how to grow, mostly intensive growing, is very important, because farmers, small farmers can suffer a lot of from not all the time they manage to get the right amount of crop, and as Amit mentioned, disasters can approach due to bad weather, floods, and so on and so forth. So they need to react and work fast according to this changing. Although, or also the weather is changing around the world, it's most important to react due to that. So I think knowledge can add a very a huge impact to these farmers, and this knowledge can be inserted and provided to farmers through technologies like AgriTask or through technology. And you mentioned how to implement a huge impact or let's say high-tech agri-tech technologies. Our mission at Agrimatics and in every agri-tech company is to create a very sophisticated, or let's say to implement in a very sophisticated technology a very easy to use interface, or easy, let's say foolproof operated technology. This is our main goal, to create these drones and smart drones acting as a smart robots, semi-people, but fully autonomous in the field, and also the digital platform, and I guess pretty much every technology. The main barrier to this area, to this continent, like Africa, is providing a very simple technology, but yet very high tech inside. So I hope it answers your questions regarding to the challenges of delivering this kind of technologies to this kind of continent.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, Amit, go for it.
Yeah, you raised an excellent point, just to address the thing about the challenge of how do you get at the end of the day to the smallholder, and what are the channels to the market. And unfortunately, it's not possible to go farmer by farmer and give him this technology. And I think that what we need to do is work through the aggregators. The aggregators can be different types of players that are able to aggregate many smallholders together and want to provide the services, the added value to to these growers. In some cases, it's the government extension services. In other cases, it can be the associations or the cooperatives. It can be the input providers in some of the companies. But once you're able to work with them and they're able to get to farmer by farmer, then you're able to drive the value, because technology has a lot of advantages, but it has also limitations. And we don't believe that technology by itself is the answer. We call it, you need to connect the sky to the ground. You need the boots on the ground together with technology to really drive the change. And the boots on the ground usually comes from the aggregators that meet these smallholders on a day-to-day basis.
Perfect response. I think you actually answered one of Ricky's questions here on mainstreaming technologies. So that was a perfect response to that. Rami, any thoughts? I know by the way, we're running a little bit over, so maybe we'll just wrap it up in 2-3 minutes, but any initial thoughts, Rami?
Regarding like a single point effort, if as you had all the money in the world, I'm not sure, but I think that we're behind. Aquaculture is behind agriculture in the terms of development and choosing the right crop and the right vegetables or fruit to grow. This has already been studied so much and applied in Africa successfully. I think this because now in Africa, most farmers are trying to culture what they know from the natural environment, which is African catfish and tilapia. And these are two fish which are found in nature, and it's very natural to pick them. However, they're very difficult to grow and make money from. And I would put a lot of effort in choosing a different fish, even a non-native fish, which will not endanger the environment. And we have ways without genetic engineering, in order to make sure that fish are not changing the ecosystem and genetic balance of the nature. And I think that the efforts should be going over there to find the right fish that is most suitable to grow economically and most suitable for Africa.
Fantastic. So thank you, everyone. I wish that we had more time. These panels are very short. Unfortunately, we went over a few minutes. I would like to thank our panelists again, Amit Noam from AgriTask, Benny from AgriMapic, Moaz Aviv from Empower Africa, Rami Alon from Pagay Maim. Thanks again, everyone. And I encourage anyone who has further questions for the Empower team or for the rest of these panelists, please message us one-on-one, direct, or come to speak to us afterwards. So thanks again, and enjoy the rest of your networking and the last panel session. Thank you.
Thank you, Yael.
Bye, everyone.